Today I'm going to be ranking every LEGO Star Wars Jedi Starfighter that LEGO has made up until 2024. Jedi Starfighters are easily some of the most fan-favorited sets that LEGO makes, and I decided I wanted to take my shot at ranking every single one of them, and I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty hard list to make, because every single one of these Jedi Starfighters is pretty much top tier, and at the end of the day, this is one of the more subjective lists I've ever had to make, but I still wanted to do it because I love Jedi Starfighters, you guys love Jedi Starfighters, and I thought it would be fun. So anyways, without further ado, I have a total of 20 separate sets to get through, and starting off at the 20th spot, I have 7143 Jedi Starfighter from 2002, and if you couldn't tell, this is actually Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter. I honestly have never figured out why they just called this Jedi Starfighter back in the day, but still, this came out all the way back in 2002, and as you can tell, it is pretty dated. It was the very first time LEGO attempted to make a Jedi Starfighter, or the Delta One as they're called, and I think back then, they definitely did a great job. This was a fun little playset for back in the time period, but today, I mean, it sucks to say, but it just doesn't hold up anymore. It's a great set, especially at the time period, but again, it's just not holding up in 2024. Anyways though, next up at the 19th spot, I have 75168 Yoda's Jedi Starfighter from 2017, and out of all the Jedi Starfighters on this list, this is one of the more forgettable ones, and that's why I put it towards the back of the list. I mean, there's nothing just straight up bad about it. If there is any problems to point out, it's that it's pretty oversized compared to what Yoda's Jedi Starfighter is supposed to be in universe, but other than that, I think for 2017, they did a decent job, but it's just not the best because it's not as iconic as the others, and it's just one that nobody really cares about. And the same thing goes for the Yoda's Jedi Starfighter remake that came out in 2023, which comes in at the 18th spot. Now, I do have to say, this one is a significant upgrade. It's way more accurate than the 2017 version. However, still, it's just kind of boring, not a ship anyone really cares about. It's not as iconic as the others, and while it is good, well, every set on this list is pretty good, I still just wanted to keep this towards the back. But now actually moving on to the Great Jedi Starfighters, up next at the 17th spot, I have 7256 Jedi Starfighter and Vulture Droid. This was the first time LEGO made a Jedi Interceptor, specifically Anakin's Jedi Interceptor, and I think they did an amazing job on it for the time period. I'd even say it's pretty far ahead of its time. Obviously, it doesn't hold up today in 2024, that's why I kept it towards the back, but for 2005, man, this thing was very impressive. It's also just super iconic and nostalgic to most of us, and on top of that, this set as a whole, the Jedi Interceptor and the Vulture Droid, was only $20, which was a crazy deal back in the day. And continuing on with 2005 Jedi Interceptors, up next at the 16th spot, I have Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor from 7283, The Ultimate Space Battle. And I know this set as a whole is extremely legendary, only $50 for all of these Starfighters, but since this is only about Jedi Starfighters, we are just focusing on Obi-Wan's, and just like Anakin's back in the day, this was ahead of its time and really impressive. And it pretty much, actually, I think it actually does have the exact same design as Anakin's. There might be a few different pieces here and there, but for the most part, it's the same design. If there's any drastic differences, you can let me know in the comments. But again, for the most part, it's the same design, although I just like the dark red and gray color scheme better than the yellow, so that's why I put it one spot higher. Like I said in the intro, this is one of the more subjective lists that I've had to make, and this is an example of that. I think the red looks better than the yellow. Anyways though, moving on to the number 15th spot, I have an all-time classic set, that being 7669, Anakin's Jedi Starfighter from 2008. This is definitely a very nostalgic and classic set for many people because it was one of the cheapest Clone Wars sets back in 2008 when the series came out. I have to say, for back then, they did a great job on it. Now, I do think there should be a bit more yellow on it. I think there's too much gray, but other than that, for the time period, this was great. Although again, in 2024, it is pretty dated, making it, to me at least, one of the sort of lesser Clone Wars Starfighters. I think as the years went on in the Clone Wars era, the Starfighters did get better and better, but this one was the first one, and to me, it's just a bit dated, but it's definitely a classic. And next up at the 14th spot, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I have Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter from 75191, Jedi Starfighter with Hyperdrive. And remember, we are only focusing on the Starfighter itself, and I think for the most part, it looks great. They captured the colors and everything perfectly. However, there's two things I don't really like. One is the green stud shooters on the front middle. I just think they look out of place, and the green studs don't look very good with the red. And two, the cockpit is a bit too tall. I mean, I know this is usually the case with almost all the Jedi Starfighters LEGO makes, but for some reason at least, this one seems a bit more bulkier than usual. But overall, great Starfighter and a awesome set. And continuing on with Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighters, up next at the 13th spot, I have 75333, Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi Starfighter from 2022. This one has a very similar design to the one I just talked about, although I put it one spot higher because I think LEGO did a better job at sort of smoothing it out and making it sleeker. Don't get me wrong, I do think the cockpit is still a bit too tall, especially that area right in front of the cockpit. There's just a big bulge right there, but besides that, I think it's great, and I think it's ever so slightly improved from the 2016 one I just talked about. Anyways though, moving on to the 12th spot, I have another classic, that being 7751, Ahsoka Ahsoka's Starfighter and Vulture Droid. And Ahsoka's Starfighter looks great. I love the colorway. I'm not the hugest fan of the green and the red, however the white patterns on it look awesome. That one big printed piece right in the middle really does a lot. I think it's printed at least. It might be stickers, but I'm pretty sure it's printed. But still, I like the colorway on this one a lot. This came out the year after Anakin's Jedi Starfighter, and as you can see, there's already a slight improvement. Anyways though, up next at the 11th spot, I have Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor from 7661 Jedi Starfighter with Hyperdrive Booster Ring from 2007. This is one of my favorite sets of all time, and I absolutely love the blue and white interceptor that is included. I would put it higher, although it is a bit dated. It basically has the same design as the other interceptors that I talked about earlier because it came out only 2 years after those, but also like those, it was impressive for its time period, and I put it a lot higher because I simply just think the dark blue and white looks a lot cooler. And not to mention, Obi-Wan's blue Jedi Interceptor is just not very known, like it wasn't shown very much in episode 3, and I think it's cool that LEGO decided to make it into a set. But now making our way into the top 10, at the number 10 spot, I have 9498 Sassy Tin's Jedi Starfighter from 2012. And this is one of the Jedi Starfighters that I think is actually kind of underrated. I don't really see people talking about this one that much, but I think it's awesome, especially that dark green and white colorway. It's super unique to me. You also get two awesome and unique Jedi, that being Sassy Tin obviously, and then Even Peel, or Even Pale, however you want to say his name. It was also sort of the last unique Jedi Starfighter that LEGO made. I mean, obviously since it came out, there's been like Anakin's and Obi-Wan's, but this is the last like unique Clone Wars one they made, which also makes it more special to me. Anyways though, up next at the number 9 spot, I have one of the most valuable Jedi Starfighters, that being 7868 Mace Windu's Jedi Starfighter from 2011. And this set is super valuable because of that tactical droid that is included, which is cool, but we're focusing on the Starfighter, and the Starfighter looks absolutely awesome. It doesn't have as crazy of a colorway as some of the other Starfighters on this list do, but for some reason to me, the very subtle difference between the white and the gray makes the Starfighter look super sleek, and for some reason, it's also more tiled off than the other Jedi Starfighters. I don't know why LEGO did that, but it made it look really good, and that's why I put it at the number 9 spot. Anyways though, up next at the number 8 spot, I have a Jedi Starfighter that's actually getting a remake in 2025, that being 8093 Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter from 2010. Now honestly, I do think I was slightly generous and a little bit biased by putting this one over Mace Windu's, because Mace Windu's, to me at least, is overall a bit sleeker, but man, I just can't get over the blue and white color pattern on this one. It looks so awesome. When I started making this list, I automatically knew this had to be in the top 10. This is such an iconic Clone Wars Starfighter from 2010, and I cannot wait to see how LEGO makes it in 2025. Anyways though, moving on to the number 7th spot, I have the newest Starfighter on this list, that being 7538H Jedi Bob Starfighter from 2024. And I'm not gonna lie, I also might have been a bit generous with this as well, because I do think this set is slightly overrated, but that's mainly just because of Jedi Bob. I think the Starfighter itself is actually fairly rated within the community. I personally really like the red and white design. I also like how it's sort of a more beefier Delta 7 Starfighter that's been like upgraded. I do think the placement of the cannons on the sides are a bit awkward. If you watch my review, I mentioned this. I never really could put my finger on why I think it looks a bit awkward, but something just seems kind of off with the cannons. But other than that, awesome Starfighter and one of the best sets that released in 2024, although Jedi Bob himself is very overrated in my opinion. Next up at the number 6 spot, I have one of the coolest Jedi Starfighters LEGO has made, and one of the most unique ones too, that being 75087 Anakin's Custom Jedi Starfighter from 2015. And the reason this one is unique because it is the only LEGO Star Wars set that is based off of the 2003 Clone Wars cartoon, and if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's freaking awesome. And so is the Starfighter. I'm still honestly to this day, almost 10 years later, surprised that LEGO even made this. Now some could argue that it looks a bit tacky with all of the big cannons and all of the fins and the big engines in the front, which I do think is kind of a valid argument, but I also just think it looks epic. Like, this really is the ultimate sci-fi fantasy looking Starfighter in my head, and I just think it's awesome, and that's why I put it at the number 6 spot. Anyways though, now making your way into the top 5, at the number 5 spot, I have 9494 Anakin's Jedi Interceptor from 2012. This set is absolutely insane, and honestly, like Sassy Tin's Jedi Starfighter, I also think this set is pretty underrated. It's one that I just don't really see people talk about that much. I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about this maybe, but I think it's awesome. The dark green and the gray go so well together. It was also the first Jedi Interceptor we saw that was really a step in the sort of modern direction, because it was a significant upgrade from the 2005 and 2007 models. One of the best Starfighters ever made, and it definitely deserves the top 5. Up next at the number 4 spot, I have the best Delta 7 LEGO has made in my opinion, that being 75214 Anakin's Jedi Starfighter from 2018. And in my opinion, this is the the perfect design for a LEGO Delta 7. It looks absolutely incredible. It is super sleek. They got the shaping and proportions down pretty much as good as they could. And I'm even going to say this set looks ahead of its time. It could easily be released today in 2024. I mean, I know sets were very modern in 2018, but this set was just more modern than the rest. It stood out. And that's why I think it's the best Delta 7 LEGO has made, and also why I gave it the number 4 spot. Anyways though, up next at the number 3 spot, I have one of my favorite sets of all time, that being 75038 Jedi Interceptor from 2014. You guys have heard me say this countless times, but 2014 was the best year of LEGO Star Wars in my opinion, and sets like this are the reason why. For $25, you get this pretty much perfect little Starfighter build. I love the design of this thing. I love the design of Jedi Interceptors in general, if you couldn't tell by me putting all of them in the top 5. And this was also one of the first LEGO Star Wars sets I bought with my own money when I was 10 years old, so it's pretty special to me. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I do personally think that the dark red on Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor looks better than the yellow on Anakin's, so that's why at the number 2 spot, I have 75135 Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor from 2016. And I kid you not, I wanted to put this set at the number 1 spot so bad. The build itself is near perfect. It looks phenomenal. The gray with the dark red is just such an appealing color combination to me at least, but there's just one slight issue with this set that kept me from putting it at the number 1 spot, and that is that R4, when she's in the little droid holder, sticks up so far, and I don't really understand why. Like, the droid literally sticks out almost a whole entire brick further than it should, and it just makes it look awkward. Like, even in this picture here, you can see Obi-Wan himself looking at how ugly it looks. But in all seriousness, because of that, I just could not put this at the number 1 spot. Don't get me wrong, when R4 is not in the Starfighter, it looks absolutely perfect. I mean, I love this thing. But again, when she is in the Starfighter, it just looks awkward, and I could not put it at the number 1 spot. So that means at the number 1 spot, I have 75281 Anakin's Jedi Interceptor from 2020. And you know, like I said, I like Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor more because of the dark red, but I'm completely fine with putting this one at the number 1 spot. This really is the perfect Jedi Starfighter or Interceptor. It's got a super modern and sleek design. LEGO pretty much did a perfect job on this. I mean, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Like, there's seriously not one flaw I can point out with this. It looks perfect. And I seriously hope that one day we get Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor in this exact build. Like, literally just a recolor. LEGO doesn't need to do anything different, just recolor this. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you think about my list down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, it's on the screen right now.